Awesome. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm very grateful and honored to be here, having this great opportunity to open our closing roundtable of our WWW Winter Work Week. I just realized this name, WWW. Thanks, Professor Solange, for inviting me to collaborate and for this great initiative. I'd like to pass for you to say some words.
Welcome, everyone, and I'm very happy for close this event, and I have to thank Professor Ian Thomson, Professor Henrique Pacini, and Fernando Alonso, the manager of Usina São Francisco, and I will speak some in Portuguese for get an overview of the event of the week. Nosso evento, o nome Winter Working Week, foi um evento realmente, hoje nós estamos fechando com muita alegria, com essa mesa redonda. E foi um evento muito produtivo, as pessoas participaram com muito entusiasmo, então foi muito interessante. Nós tivemos aqui, então, um seminário, começamos com o professor Ian Thomson, da Universidade de Birmingham, com um seminário para os acadêmicos, sobre metodologia de pesquisa, sobre projetos. Nós tivemos, na quarta-feira, a participação do professor Henrique Pacini, da UNCTAD, numa palestra sobre economia circular. Nós tivemos a divulgação dos Objetivos do Desenvolvimento Sustentável com a professora Adriana Caldana e com o professor Eliezer. E tivemos a participação, na quarta-feira também, do professor Aldo Meto, da Escola de Engenharia de São Carlos, outra unidade da USP, então muito importante também, que houve uma integração entre unidades. E também tivemos uma palestra bem interessante sobre oportunidades de divulgação, não acadêmica, não em veículos científicos, com o professor Rafael Chiaravalotti, que tem 2 livros publicados, para um público mais geral, sobre as questões de sustentabilidade, que a gente vem enfrentando, então uma forma também, uma oportunidade também de divulgação para nós acadêmicos, foi o que ele mostrou. Nós tivemos ontem uma sessão bastante interessante, creio que até pioneira, aqui na faculdade, que foi uma sessão com o professor Ian Thomson, discutindo projetos com os alunos de pós-graduação, discutindo, dando feedbacks, sobre os projetos de uma forma bem informal, direta, Então isso foi bastante interessante e os alunos já me deram feedback que gostaram bastante dessa sessão, que gostariam que isso fosse repetido, E a gente já começa a pensar numa nova edição, A partir daqui a gente já pensar numa nova edição para o próximo ano, Então foi muito, muito interessante. Bom, este evento é uma realização do grupo de pesquisa Accounting and Management Education for Sustainability. Tem o apoio do Programa de Pós-Graduação em Controladoria e Contabilidade, aqui da FEA, e foi organizada por a nossa comissão, que é composta por mim, pela professora Paula Nardi, pela professora Maísa, do Departamento de Contabilidade, pela professora Adriana Caldana e a professora Perla, do Departamento de Administração, e o professor Eliezer, do Departamento de Economia. Foi também organizado pelo Escritório de Sustentabilidade, quem a gente agradece muito, a organização, a realização, das nossas atividades aqui, participou em todos os passos, muito obrigada, Júlio. Então, A gente só tem a comemorar isso, que agradecer muito. Né? Thank you, Professor Ian. Thank you, Professor Pacini. E Fernando, Alonso, muito obrigado por vir trazer esse caso de sucesso, que é muito interessante aqui para nós. Né? E esta sessão será usada para aulas, né? Para as nossas aulas, para divulgação em nossos grupos de pesquisa, né? Canais do YouTube. Tá? Então, para que a gente possa fazer uma disseminação muito boa aí, né, dos nossos trabalhos. Tá bom? Muito obrigada, muito obrigada.
Thank you, Professor Solange. Firstly, I would like to welcome Mr. Fernando Alonso de Oliveira. Mr. Fernando Alonso de Oliveira has been in the Balbo Group since 1995, and he's an agronomist, and today he is the manager of São Francisco Sugar Mill, responsible for Native brand, which is the pride of our country for boosting the organic market in Brazil and abroad. Mr. Alonso de Oliveira will present the lecture, Pioneering Sustainable Initiative for Better Cane Production Systems. His presentation will bring us the success case of Green Cane Project that we are researching for a long time together. And welcome, Mr. Alonso. Thank you for coming. To enrich the discussion, I would like to invite Professor Ian Thomson from University of Birmingham. Professor Ian has brought us all of his expertise throughout this week. Thank you again, Professor Ian. And Professor Ian will address issues related to stakeholder engagement and the social, environmental, and economic gains of this kind of project. To the end, to complete this roundtable, I would like to call Mr. Henrique Pacini. Henrique is our alumni, and today he is Economic Affairs Officer of UNCTAD. Henrique will speak about international trade and the competitiveness of organic agriculture. Welcome home, Henrique. And this session is being recorded, and we will broadcast in our channels. Okay? Thank you. Let's start with presentation of sugarcane products.
Good morning, everybody. I would like, as a start, to thank you very much for the opportunity to showcase our contribution to this new approach to economics, which is carrying out sustainable initiatives. So, I've been working together with Mr. Leontino Balbo Jr. for 22 years now, and I had the opportunity to accompany very closely the whole organic certification process of the project. However, the project started a long time ago, in the beginning of the 80s, and it didn't aim to be an organic project by then. What Mr. Balbo was aiming at was to get a more sustainable agricultural process. So I am going to show you what did he change in this 15 years before the organic certification achievement that allowed us to become organic. So we are organic as a consequence of some attitudes, some new activities, some new technical approaches to sugarcane production. The Balbo Group is a family business established in 1946 as an economic activity. However, its founders worked in the sugarcane sector since 1903, in the first sugar mill in Sertãozinho region, which is Engenheiro Central. Nowadays, this facility is a sugarcane museum, very interesting place to visit. Nowadays, our group employs 5,000 people, forming a community of 15,000 people when you consider the relatives. We have 6 companies to produce sugar, alcohol, electricity, biodegradable plastic, animal feed, and generating carbon credits. Santo Antônio, São Francisco, and Uberaba mills crushes nowadays 6.4 million metric tons of sugarcane to produce 280,000 metric tons of sugar, 340,000 cubic meters of ethanol, and generating 235,000 megawatts hour of electric energy. And the Green Cane project, which is the project responsible for organic production, started in 1983 and got certified organic in 1997. We currently grow 20,000 hectares of organic certified fields to produce more than 90,000 metric tons of organic products every year. And such products are distributed to more than 60 countries in the 5 continents. And then for us to reach all those markets around the world, we have to deal with many different certification agencies and many different certification regulations in the world. And it's very challenging. And it's subject of another presentation I usually do. This is a view of Santo Antônio Sugar Mill, the first company in the group. São Francisco Sugar Mill, which is the organic production unity. And Uberaba Mill, which is our greenfield. It is in its 13th harvest season now. So it's a brand new company. So the first thing we had to do in order to achieve a more sustainable way of production was to eliminate sugarcane burning before harvesting. This is now a reality in São Paulo State. I mean, São Paulo State, the environmental secretary of São Paulo State did an agreement with our association in order to advance the end of the sugarcane burning procedure. And we, for the land which can be mechanically harvested, we achieved it in 2014. And this year, 2017, is supposed to be the last year where we can still burn some small fields where the land is not appropriate for mechanical harvesting. However, São Francisco Sugar Mill, and this is how people manually collect burnt cane, but São Francisco started testing organic green cane harvesting in 1989 with this machine, which wasn't by then even appropriate for harvesting burnt cane. So this equipment you see here is fireman truck, because this harvester would set on fire every 5 minutes. So we had to keep the equipment needed to, avoid any fire in the sugarcane, the whole sugarcane. And then they invited this company, which used to be here. Now it's AGCO here, but it used to be a Brazilian company, producer of agricultural equipment and implements and so on. This company who produced the sugar mill was invited by the sugar mill to modify this equipment in order to make it proper to harvest green cane. And it was done during the following years. And in 1993, that company launched the first Brazilian green cane harvester. And it was done in a field in São Francisco mill. But when we reached this point, São Francisco mill had already 5 prototypes doing commercially green cane harvesting, in a way that in the following year, 1994, it was the last year where we had a burnt cane in our own fields. From 1995 on, only green cane harvesting in the sugar mill. So we advanced this protocol in 20 years. This is development, so this is a new machine. It was originated in Australia. It was adapted to Brazilian circumstances and fields. And we asked them to bring us harvesters supported on tracks instead of tires, so we could have a better flotation and less compaction. I will talk about this sometimes during this presentation, because it's very important. And this is how it is today. You can see the harvester supported by tracks, and a special truck that only goes in the fields with very large and high flotation tires in order for us to decrease the compaction over the soil. We have a very special care for physical structure in the soil, and this is one of the keys for a more sustainable production way. So, another initiative that is very important and very oftenly not respected is to recycle effluents from sugarcane industrialization. Of course, all sugar mills will head their vinasses and the filter cake to the fields. However, they will do this looking at the economic aspect only. So if a land is very far from the sugar mill, it will never receive vinasses. It will be fertilized by chemical fertilizers, and areas that are near the sugar mill will receive a lot of vinasses, which is bad for the environment because it can percolate, lixiviate, and the nutrients in it can reach the subsoil water with bad consequences, of course. So I like very much to show this flow chart, because you can see the whole cycle here. So this represents harvesting. This here is a green manure crop. I will show this in detail. Forests attached to the fields. And then the sugarcane comes to the mill, it is crushed, and we have the bagasse going to electric generation. And in the end of this process, we have an ash, very rich in potassium, for instance. And the juice goes to treatment, and after the filtration of the juice, we have the filter cake, which is also a very interesting organic fertilizer. Then the treated juice can go to the sugar factory. It is evaporated, crystallized, centrifuged, and after centrifugation we have sugar in one side and the molasses in the other side. The molasses is headed to a tank where it is mixed to juice, and it goes to distillation, to fermentation, and distillation to produce ethanol. And from distillation we get ethanol, and we get vinasses, which is also a very interesting fertilizer for the organic stewardship of the fields. So this is filter cake being applied in the soil, also with a truck with very high flotation tires. So all the equipment entering the sugar mill is equipped with some way to avoid compaction. We are very strict on it. And this is Viness's application. It is there is a big rose here that is wrapped back to the truck where the Vinesse is stored. You can see it here. What we want is an alive soil. We want a soil with adequate air and water spaces, structured, comfortable to plants and to life, as you can see. And such soil is so much alive that it can digest very fastly the sugarcane straw. It's very lignified. It is very rich in cellulose, so it wouldn't be easily digestible, but it can be done if you have an alive soil. This is a green manure crop. We are talking about leguminous plants which have the ability to fixate nitrogen from the air in a symbiosis with a bacteria. So this is named Crotalaria, and it reaches 60 metric tons of green matter in only 90 days, and we in our conditions, and we do it during the renewal cycle of the sugarcane. Sugarcane is a semi-perennial crop, which means once planted, it will stay in the ground for 6 to 7 years and give us 5 to 6 consecutive cuts, one each year. After this cycle is finished, we have the opportunity to plant a commercial or a green manure crop starting in the end of the sugarcane cycle. So we eliminate the sugarcane, plant the seeds of this plant, and it grows over the summertime, and then we just, as you can see here, we just pass over this and plant sugarcane back, initiating a new cycle. And with this, we can add up to 400 kilograms of nitrogen per hectare, which is a free fertilization, a natural fertilization, in high quality nitrogen. This is another leguminous crop, also used as a green manure crop fertilization, named mucuna. And then after some years, many years, 2 decades of these procedures, we ended up believing that we didn't need that nitrogen anymore in all the cases. So in some circumstances, we started doing green manure crops not aiming at the nitrogen, but aiming at bringing more life to the soil. The more life we have, the more stable will be the environment, the whole environment, including sugarcane. So we were inviting some new bugs to participate in our management. That was the whole idea. This is the sugarcane borer. It is the more important plague in sugarcane in Brazil. We have been having some new plagues because of the new system. The green cane harvesting is bringing us new challenges, and we are facing it. But this is very traditional and keeps being the most important plague. And it's totally controlled by a micro wasp named Cotesia flavipes, which we raise in an entomological lab. Cotesia flavipes is an exclusive parasite of the sugarcane borer. If we don't have the borer, we don't have the wasp. So in order for us to raise them in the lab, we need to raise the borer as well. So in the lab we have, this is the border already being attacked by the wasps. So it's very ill here, and this is the wasp. You see, this is the border here, and the lady here is offering the border to the wasp. It bites the border and poses 50 eggs inside its body, and that's how we end up killing this border. And this is a cup of wasps already in the sugarcane field. We have to put 4 of these cups per hectare in order to have a very good control. And it's more effective than any chemical pesticide we could have, because the pesticides cannot reach very well the border because it's inside the sugarcane stalk. So it's very difficult to reach. But the wasp goes inside there and gets the border. So in natural conditions, you can see here the wasp taking the border. And then, as I told you, we had since we changed the whole environment when we started harvesting green cane, we have the appearance of new plagues, and one of the most important ones is the frog hopper, which was normally found in pastures in Brazil. So the new environment favored the proliferation of this bird and of this plague, and it was becoming an important problem to us. And then we started seeing attacked frog hoppers in the fields, like this one. It is being attacked by a fungus. We collected them, the attacked frog hoppers, and we sent it to a lab to identify what was attacking them, and it was a fungus named Metarrhizium. It's a very common fungus with very large use as a biological control agent. However, it has to be adapted to the plague we are trying to control. So it didn't. We wouldn't have success importing a metarrhizium from another region and trying to apply it. It should be collected this way. So this new variety of the Metarrhizium was multiplied in cooked rice, and this is applied in the fields by airplane. This airplane is very sustainable because it runs on ethanol, and when it's flying on our fields, it goes with organic and fair trade ethanol. This is a fly. It's named Salpingogaster nigra, and it's also an agent who attacks the frog hopper. And it's important as an indicator of environmental quality, because if you have any insecticide in miles away from it, it will kill it. So it will never appear in a contaminated environment. So the presence of it shows in a very effective manner the quality of the environment we have been achieving in our fields. And this is very interesting. These are termites. We used to have in the past a very important problem with a kind of termite named Heterothermis tenuis. It used to feed from a live cane. But these ones, as you can see here, they have black bellies, which means they are feeding from dead matter, from the straw left over the soil, from whatever they can get. And then after a few years, in 2010, after a few years of our changes, we have several species of termites, but not the bad one, not the Heterothermis tenuis. All these other guys, they are helping us because when they feed from that matter and they defecate, they are fertilizing the soil. This is the presence of heterothermic along the years, since 1991, and then we stopped counting because it was not important anymore. And this was a natural occurrence. It is biological control that was induced by the changes in the environment. We didn't, because the first two cases I showed you, we were actively controlling. I was introducing the Cotesia flavipes, or I was introducing the metarrhizium in the fields in order to get the control. In this case, the changing the environment in the management provided us this unexpected control. The same happened with leaf cutting ants. What you see here is fire ants predating eggs of leaf cutting ants. So when we had the naked land without the straw, we were disfavoring the fire ants and favoring the leaf cutting ants. Why that? Because the ant hills of these species, is in the surface, and the ant hills of fire ants, of leaf cutting ants, is very down in the soil. So they were able to protect themselves. What happened to the leaf cut ants is the same that happened with the termites. So it's another case of induced biological control. We also did the program started in 1981 to reforestate all the permanent preservation areas we had in the sugar mill. Only in São Francisco mill, which is an area of 7,500 hectares, we planted more than 1 million trees over the years in order to protect all the areas around water courses and all the sensible areas we should protect. So this is the way we've been doing, and these are the results. What we want is always to have a forest near the sugarcane fields, because they, besides protecting the whole environment, they can provide us with natural solutions. So it is the ideal situation. And this is the way we would like to have all our sugar canes, and we have been working on it. So we would like to have the forest aside the sugarcane and grass in the yale. The grass protects the road, feeds deers and other wild animals, capivaras and so on, and is a very good landscape as well. Weed control. It has been our biggest challenge in this process. We cannot, of course, use herbicides, and so we have been dealing with weeds in several manners. We've been trying to find varieties that cover the soil fastly in order to don't lead us to compete with the weeds to compete with the sugarcane, but we have to weed by hand, and we are using a lot of handwork, and it's in the opposite side of the trend we have nowadays to have less people in the fields. So it's getting hard for us to hire people because they are not coming. They would normally come here for the harvest season. They are not coming, so we have to. We've been trying to mechanize it the most we can, because we have been not being able to find people for our needs. So as I told you, we for a long time we have been taking care of the soil by avoiding compaction as well. These high flotation tires here are equipped with this compressed air system where we can deflate it when we enter the sugar fields and inflate it when we go to the roads. So the more deflated we can have a tire in the fields, the less compaction we have, because we improve the touching surface with the tire on the soil. And all equipment we have tracks on it, such as this high potential tractor, power tractor. This is the track in the sugarcane harvester. And nowadays we have this concept of sugarcane truck in order to harvest. This is the only truck for harvesting nowadays. We are not entering the fields with heavy trucks as we did in the past. So each one of these beans carry only 10 metric tons, and they are supported by 3 axes in the truck and 2 axes in here. And these tires have 700 millimeters of width and works on 20 psi of pressure, so it's a very low pressure when compared to a truck in the road, which is 110 psi. What we want is this. You can see here that the structure of the soil is not only physical. You can see these wet particles here. This is a kind of glue made by colambulus, lichens, and some bacteria that add together the particles of soil, providing a very good physical structure. And this is what we want to have, because when the soil gets this condition, it can better support life in any forms. The soil life, the life above the soil, the sugar cane, all the plants we need to have there, and so on. So these were the main initiatives we had. Now I will talk a bit about the indicators we got from it. So the most interesting case, we have been using it as a marketing tool, for instance, is the important raising of biodiversity, faunistic biodiversity in our fields. We started noticing that we had much more insects flying around in our fields than we used to have in the past. And we did a very important research on it. But it was a construction. It was from the bottom to the top. From the soil until the high vertebrates we have there. We passed through several trophic levels of life. It was very clear along the years. So all the species of arthropods catalogated and identified and so on. More important than the quantity is the quality. We found 9 types of ladybugs in the fields, and ladybugs are very good indicators of biological control because they predate some bad insects, some plagues and so on. Some of these were unknown by the researchers which were doing the job there. And then we started seeing very unusual animals appear in the fields with their paws. This is a sucuri, anaconda that feeded from 70 kilogram capivara. And this, well, if I have time, this anaconda has a very interesting story that reached the international media. it was found aside from the sugar warehouse there, right aside the sugar warehouse. The supervisor of the warehouse freaked out. It was a Sunday, and called the fireman. Fireman came and captured the snake and took it away. In the Monday morning, they advised Leontino about what happened, and he called the fireman and said, "Well, give me back my snake. This is the property of São Francisco sugar mill. We want it back." And this picture was taken when we released the anaconda in one of our suitable areas for this. And this was an area where people used it to invade for fishing and hunting. And then we advised all the communities there that we released the 6-meter snake there. And we had some peace for some time. So we decided, we said, well, we pretend we understand a little bit of sugarcane, but we don't understand anything about animals. So we should hire someone who understands it in order to see what's happening here, because it may be a very good indicator. And then we hired, we approached the people from Embrapa Satellite Monitoring in Campinas, and ended up with an agreement with with Dr. José Roberto Miranda, which is an ecologist and specialized in social biodiversity, who carried out, so Embrapa coordinated a team with people from USP, Unicamp, Mackenzie, and other very good institutions. And this team assessed our zooecological surveys and our biodiversity. The first thing they did was to map all the farms according to what animals would see. So what are the habitats from sugarcane, from organic sugarcane to native forest, to exotic forests, and so on. Even drainage channels were considered as an important habitat in the end. And they found more than 300 species of higher vertebrates in the fields, all of which 49 was in an endangered situation according to the Environmental Secretariat of São Paulo State. But how does this happen? What caused us to have such an explosion in biodiversity, fauna biodiversity? Well, for a given population to establish, they need to fulfill 3 dimensions. They need to have shelter, they need to have conditions for reproduction, and they need food. Of course, any given species have different needs in each of these 3 dimensions. So there are 2 opposite strategies, and there are many shades of gray between them. So if we transform it into a graphic, we would have the air strategy, which is based on reproduction, and we represent it by the hopper. In a graph, we would say the hopper spends a lot of energy in reproduction, because they have a big amount of descendants, in the hope that one of them will reach the adult phase. They don't care about shelter, and they are not specific on food. They need food, but as far as it's green, it's okay. Their behavior is to reach an area, eat whatever they can, and leave it. So there's no consideration about what they are feeding from. In the opposite side, we would say the key strategy, and we represent it by the anteater. And the anteater would have a very different combination of needs. They don't spend too much energy in reproduction. An anteater will have one son every 2 years, and it will take care of this until it gets to the adult phase. So, in spite of reproducing a lot, they only have one kid, but they need, for raise their kids, they need shelter, and they are very specific on food. What does an anteater eat? So it's very specific. Okay. Intensive agriculture system is normally unable to provide a comfortable environment for fauna biodiversity. Why is that? Too much traffic, frequent soil movement, too many and different crops every year. And this is very interesting. Animals, when they are trying to establish in a given region, they need predictability. They need to have a very calm and constant environment along the year, because they will look for foods in specific places along the year, and they know where they are. They're provided with a very interesting sense of direction and so on. And since we start changing crops many times during the year, as we have in annual crops such as soybean, corn, cotton, and this kind of cycle, it causes a behavior disturb in such animals. Poor shadowing, because more often those crops are very short, small size of crops, too much pesticides, few organic matter left over, absence of native vegetation alongside crop fields. Sugarcane crop is naturally more friendly to fauna biodiversity. Why is that? One set of tillages every 7 years, so the environment doesn't change a lot along the years. One harvest per year. And it's every time in the same period of the year. So if you harvest a field in May this year, in the next year it will be May, and so forth. So you have a very stable environment. Few cultivation operations. So if sugarcane, when once harvested, we will fertilize, maybe clarify the soil and so on, and leave it growing until the next year. So there are very few operations. So we have a calm environment. Even conventional sugar canes, and it's changing in the recent past, but even conventional sugar canes doesn't use too much pesticides. It used to be a herbicide every year. Nowadays it's becoming more common to have insecticides and so on, which is bad, but still it's not a crop who have too much pesticides associated with. When compared to other crops such as cotton and soybean and tomatoes and this kind of crops, it's almost nothing. The crop is very high, so it can reach 4 meters, so it provides shelter in a very good manner for many animals. It provides intensive soil coverage and shadowing, but some practices prevented sugarcane crops from performing such ecological potential. The pre-harvest burning, pesticides, and pure native vegetation areas along crop fields. The Green Cane Project came in favor of many of such bad conditions for fauna. because established the green cane harvesting, established biological pest control, so it avoided 100% of the pesticides usage. It provided the field crops with floristic biodiversity islands. It provided the sensible reuse of agro-industrial effluents as fertilizers, so it avoided chemical fertilizers as well. The soil physical structure keeping system and the green manure crops. But the straw is the key. The sugarcane straw, the green cane harvest provided is 20 metric tons of organic matter per year. I have to tell you, there is no other commercial crop who can provide such an amount of organic matter every year. Providing an intensive mulch, covering the soil, protecting soil from insolation and erosion, keeping rainwater. It fuels and shelters an intense network of saprophytic organisms, which are the basis for the establishment of the whole ecological chain. So this is the fuel that feeds the whole food chain. About water resources. Okay, since we started this project, we firmly believed that we would contribute for a better, for improving the water in our water courses. Why is that? Because we're keeping the soil covered all the time by the mulch, by the sugarcane straw. And it would avoid evaporation from the soil, therefore more water would be kept. And since the soil is structured, this water would percolate and reach the water resources and course. As you can see. But we didn't have any proof of that. It was only a belief. But then, after many years in this new environment, we found situations like this in 3 points in the fields. This is an aerial picture taken by the Brazilian Institution of Coffee in 1971. And this is a Google Earth image from 2008 of the same place. We didn't have anything here. Only what we had is this. This here looks like a bowl. So the land looks like a bowl. So it's the bottom part here of this farm. And where we had nothing, we nowadays have a small new stream. And this that you can see here is the ciliar vegetation we planted to protect this new stream. So this would be a good proof that we were increasing the water resources in our fields through agricultural management. So this is the new stream. You can see it's a stream because it's straight. It used to be a drainage channel only. Okay. This is how it looks from outside. We have been carrying greenhouse inventories since the season 2006-07, and this is our total emissions every year since then, and this is total emissions when we discount the co-generation of electric energy who is done by biomass, so it has a positive impact. And this difference here is because in 2010 we started a new power plant which co-generated much more from the same bagasse than we used to do in the past year. So this is the effect. But then and this is very interesting, we are normally taught, and it's true, that we should consume local production. We have to consume food or anything that is produced near us. But this is the amount of greenhouse gases we emit for every metric ton of sugar in the sugar mill, when in the sugar mill. And then we have to take the sugar, put it on a truck, take it to Santos, put it on a ship, and take it to Europe. Okay? And when we reach Europe with our organic sugar, we are issuing 326 kilograms of CO2 equivalent per metric ton of sugarcane. But then, this is the emission of sugar produced in Europe from beet sugar. Why is that? Why it is so high? It is because they don't have the bagasse to burn in the sugar mill, so they have to burn fossil fuels to run their sugar factories there. So it's a very clear case where it would be better for them to stop producing sugar there and importing from Brazil or from any other country which runs on sugarcane. And then, if you do the same thing, I mean, if I take my sugar to Europe and avoid a lot of emission, then it's a gain. I could have carbon credits for that. Not that I will, but I could have. And if we do the same thing when we replace, for instance, fossil fuel by ethanol, organic, because we provide, for instance, ethanol to Natura, the cosmetic company. It's neutral ethanol, very pure and so on. They use it in their perfumes. And they use it to use conventional neutral ethanol before. And when we replace conventional ethanol by organic ethanol, there is a gain. So, and then this is the sum of the whole gains. And we have all the products here and how they behave. And we can say that in that 7.5 thousand hectares of organic fields that São Francisco produces only, we are capturing 45,000 metric tons of CO2 every year. So this is the final one I would like to tell you. Every people working with organic agriculture tells us that the yields are bad, that conventional producers produces more than organic producers. And this is very interesting. I used to work in the CTC, the Copper Sugar Technology Center, which is nowadays Sugarcane Technology Center. By the time we were developing this. This is the combination of two technologies. A good database on sugarcane, reaching 50 sugar mills by then, or 500,000 hectares of sugarcane. And the pedologic survey. Pedologic is the soil survey. So all the sugar mills have the same soil chart with the same classification. And such soils were organized by their production capacity. And it was called production environments. And São Francisco Sugar Mill has this distribution. 17% of the soil is A environment, which is the best one. 52% is B environment. 3.6% C, and 21% D. There is also the E and F environments, which we don't have there, okay? And then, Compersucar established by then, based on the data we gathered, that a soil in the A environment should produce 95 metric tons of sugarcane per hectare in an average of 4 cuts, the first 4 cuts. A B environment should produce 90, 85, and 80. And this, and then we asked CTC to do this for us. Okay, take samples of all the sugar mills during the seasons 90 to 96, which is right before we converted our lands to the new stewardship. And they produce it like this. As a matter of fact, these productions established these bars, okay? And in the same time, São Francisco mill produced it like this. So it was in the average. We used to be very careful with stewardship by then, even being conventional, so we produced a bit more in the D environments. It was very successful in these environments. Okay, and then we asked the same study 10 years later, okay, and the whole sugar mills gained 5 metric tons in average for every environment. And by then, we completed our organic stewardship for all the fields. And we produce it. Oh, of course, we could say that nowadays it is acceptable to produce 100, so we could raise the bar. And São Francisco produced it like this in the same period. Okay. This is very interesting. I would say it's astonishing. I always do not consider the C environment because you have too little C environment there. It can be a statistic error or something like that. But when you look at A, B, and D environment, you can see first, we produce much more than conventional producers, and it is stratified by production environment. So you cannot say we are favored by a good soil. And the second thing, most important, is that there is no difference in the yield in the 3 more important environments we have there. And why is that? It's because when CTC established the production environment, it only take into consideration the chemical quality of that soils, the chemical aspect of fertility. However, physical and biological aspects of fertility are very important. They are much more important than the natural capacity of the soil itself. It's what we have been showing here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Also here. And now Professor Ian will start his considerations about this presentation. Please, Professor.
Okay, thank you for a wonderful presentation. I always get excited as a sustainable accountant when I see it being put into practice. In particular, when you can see such a a collection of innovative, kind of exciting mixture between kind of technology, nature, management, kind of science, all things kind of bringing together. In one of the key characteristics of sustainability is the interconnection between the different levels. And in some ways, I also think it's wonderful that one of the major assets of our world that has been abused as much as our atmosphere and our water, which is the soil, is actually at the core of your kind of like business. Is genuinely a business that's built from the ground up. Well, it's actually built from below the ground up, and recognizing how all these things kind of like fit together. I was asked to look at some things to do with sustainability and stakeholders, as well as some of the accounting. So, I mean, I think if we look at the other researching organisations that have tried to go through such a kind of radical kind of transformation, the role of stakeholders is actually kind of like being quite important. And maybe we can talk a little bit about that kind of later. Too often, I think, our theories of organisation are based on organisations being wholly independent from society, from other parts of the economy, and certainly from nature. It's almost like a company has a wall round it, and we look within the organisation. And when we start to try and look at, I think, effective organisations, we need to break down these walls and to look at the connections that we have with different stakeholders, what they can bring to the organisation, what harm the organisation sort of like can cause stakeholders, and this idea that we need to almost reconceptualize companies and organisations as part of the natural and the social ecosystem. And I think that this is a wonderful example of where this has actually happened, that it seems to be a company without walls in terms of linking together. But when we look at stakeholders, quite often when we talk in research, we talk about stakeholder engagement, but we look at the power of the stakeholder, and we don't necessarily engage with all of the stakeholders. We engage with powerful stakeholders that can cause us harm as an organisation, or that we can get some benefits. Whereas I think the research on sustainable organisations is actually about engaging with the weak stakeholders, engaging with those who are maybe kind of oppressed or marginalised, and working in an inclusive way with these stakeholders is actually kind of like creates a kind of far greater kind of transformation along sustainable development. And again, we've got the sustainable development goals there. And we see that one thing that sustainable development goals is it recognises the weak and the marginalised without institutional power. And I think that the stakeholders, and perhaps one of the stakeholders that has been missed out has been nature. And I think that natural asset, and you always find in a lot of the sustainability, literally they always talk about the stakeholders. We have the economic, we have the social, and then we have the environment. And very few organisations genuinely sort of have I think there's I can't remember who wrote the book, but the idea you should have 2 empty spaces in a boardroom. One of them should have a plant in it, and the other one should have, kind of a picture of a kind of a poor, marginalised kind of community. And I think it strikes me that within your organisation, there's a plant in the boardroom, there's a plant in the accounting system, and the way in which it works. And I think again, I've got so much to say. I was really excited. So stop me if I go on too much, so that Henrique has a place to say. I think that a lot of what is underpinned there is driven by risks. The organisations who have a very strong understanding of the risks to your business of kind of being unsuccessful, and it's incorporated these risks, not just in in a superficial way, but at the kind of the core of the business. What is it that stops us being a successful sugarcane? What is it that, what are the sources of our value? What value do we produce? And reconceptualizing waste as value. I mean, I've looked at quite a lot for cheese manufacturers, dairy manufacturers, sort of like fish farms. And what's always is the amount of waste that's actually just thrown away and not actually kind of reconsidered as a source of value or a reduction in the costs. And closing the loops is actually kind of quite here. But again, I think a lot of the reasons why companies don't recognise the value is because of the way in which they do the accounting. Accountants have something to blame. If we look at a conventional way of accounting for these things, we just go straw. What's straw? Straw's just a byproduct. It's not sugar. We don't sell straw. We just, we'll burn it, which is what they did before, or we'll actually use it to regenerate an asset. Because, where in accounting, even environmental accounting, is the soil? Where's the anaconda? I love that example. I was just trying to think, I think some of the other accountants in the audience would say, you've got buildings, land, pension funds, anaconda, and the value that the anaconda has as an asset, the value that termites have, the value that these horrible little wasps, I don't know, anyway, have. But this idea that the knowledge of sustainable production is incorporated within the accountability and the governance of the organisation, rather than it being driven by a notion of return to shareholders. And I suspect you're a very profitable company as well, and it's like what you find is if you pursue good value business, profit comes. If you try and grab profit, you actually kind of like, it's short term and it can damage the organisation. So I think we've got this other thing about designing the management of the organisation, designing the accounting and the performance measures with the natural cycle, the cycle of nature, which again is this idea of nature as a kind of a stakeholder. And not to fear nature. Again, that's another thing. I mean, I suspect many people saw the snake and went, oh. We saw the little microscopic ants and went, oh. I mean, but you don't fear nature. These are important parts. As a modern business, we don't have to kill them all. We don't have to. We need to employ them. We employ bugs, not chemicals. I don't know if they have payroll numbers or pay tax, but but they are part of our employees rather than some pest to destroy. And I think some of the language of that. I think the other issues is that we often talk about natural capital. We also often talk about biodiversity accounting and environmental issues, but we do it in a very different way. We tend to look at the impact of the business elsewhere in the production site. Whereas this is I think a very powerful example of best practice where you're actually integral to your accounting is biodiversity. That understanding, that scientific, ecological, cultural and aesthetic notion of what biodiversity is and how that natural capital can actually bring into play. At the same time, not being afraid of using technology when technology is appropriate, and the attention to detail, like something as simple as reducing the pressure in the tire to protect the soil underneath. Again, is a no cost solution, but with considerable kind of advantages. And I think, again, things like the satellite, the accountability to nature and accountability for nature that's embedded within the organisation is there. Also, in things like the importance of the value of certification. I think that's it. So you know what's going on your production plant, but the consumers and the investors don't. So there's a need to tell that story, to communicate that accountability which is going on, which partially can be done with the certification, but that only tells part of the story, which I think the kind of wider accountability is there. And I think it's I'm always going on, every kind of seminar I do, is that when you do accounting for sustainability, you don't start with the accounting, you start with the sustainability. You start with the kind of natural systems, and then you work out how you can hybridize the accounting, powers of accounting, the importance of evidence, the importance of cost, the importance of kind of added value, and when that all kind of like comes together, but you build from what it is to be a good sustainable business, and then design the costs that way. I'm sure it was not an easy process. I suspect there was lots of resistance over time. People saying it's wrong. You know, most organisations going through this transformation are constantly told when we interview them, said, no, everyone just says no, you're mad, you're crazy, you can't be doing this. It defies the kind of like the logic that we know of how things go. It's going to cost too much. It's not feasible to actually to do these things. Whereas I think these kind of inspiring stories and have this idea that they can provide so many lessons for others to challenge, I think, the linear short-term profit business orientated thinking, and actually to kind of to allow others to follow the path. But maybe not too many, so that you use your competitive advantage. That's all I'm going to say, but I've got more I want to say. So I don't know how you pass on to Henrique.
Thanks, Ian. Thanks for the audience, for those watching us, and also to Fernando for the very nice presentation, which I had the opportunity to see bits and bytes of this presentation previously in the big organic agriculture conference that happens every year in Germany, I think FEA-RP, where Grupo São Francisco and Native is a constant presence. I'm a native of this region. I'm very proud that Native comes from the region. And as an official of the UN, I'm also very happy to see Native broadcasting its message, especially how it operated, how it grew, to others, many others. You've seen thousands who go to FEA-RP, wanting to learn, wanting to do business, develop like Native did. Well, I'm supposed to comment a bit on the competitiveness aspect of organic agriculture businesses. I think that it's very important to link in positive environmental impacts with profitable businesses, as Native nicely represents. I happen to work with organic agriculture at the UN. One of my portfolios is the promotion and analysis of organic agricultural markets in two places of the world, in Laos and 10,000 kilometers from here, and in Tanzania. Both places are very nice, very challenging, and they are very keen on developing similar experiences like Native did. A lot was said about premiums for organic agriculture. But the premiums need to be affordable, and you see this, at least in the region, everywhere I go, I see your sugars, and I would say it's very highly adopted by people. You see people going for the product, having this health consciousness, a preference for the product, which has also a pretty good taste, better than the standard sugar, and that is very attractive and affordable for people in many social classes. I'm pretty sure that the biggest market for Native is the Brazilian market. I wonder if you are already branching out to other Latin American countries with this Native standard. The private standard of organic agriculture is a very big discussion in international trade, and something we look on, because not all countries, like Tanzania or Laos, are like Brazil, with a very large internal market. Many countries look to do cross-border businesses with their organic brands. And our job in UNCTAD is to develop organic markets in developing countries, countries which are often, I would say, almost always in the cases where you work, less developed in Brazil, and they are in a dire need for additional income sources or to increase the revenues of farmers, especially to meet the SDGs, because we're talking about countries where people don't have sanitation most of the time. Farmers are paid very low prices in Tanzania, 2 cents of a dollar for a kilo of tomatoes. And in Geneva, a kilo of tomatoes is $6. And if they can, through organics and through a profitable organic business model, reach better income and better standards of living, a longer life expectancy, that will be an awesome achievement, an indirect achievement of economic diplomacy in the world, which is the area we are engaged on. I would say that organic agriculture carries many cool benefits, some of which Professor Ian mentioned, Fernando himself, but also the one key thing is that when I was in Arusha 4 weeks ago in Tanzania, there were a lot of people presenting their organic products there, and also buyers, supermarkets, mentioning the issues that they need to be tackled to increase the market of organics there. And they said that organic agriculture, when well done, it helps to improve food safety, food quality, and the standardization of product. So always to have the same type of tomato packaged cashew nuts or silk or whatever, which is reliable, that the consumer can trust on that product will be always there, like expected, the quality will not oscillate. And this is a big thing, and the push for organics causes a push for product standards, which is very important for market upscaling. Another thing I wanted to bring is that organic agriculture is a very nice step towards characteristics you see in advanced markets, such as product differentiation. It will be very boring to go to a supermarket and see only, I know that Native has many products, but see only plain white sugar, standard bag. If I would give you, each of you in the audience, a paper and say how much you're willing to pay for a kilogram of sugar, just sugar, and I'm sure that I would get in separate papers different numbers. So you all have a different willingness to pay. A topic that is very acquainted to all of you, many of you are economists and finance professionals. So I will have values from 50 cents of a dollar, 20 cents up to $4 per kilogram. And it's very important for businesses to be able to capture this whole array of willingness to pay. And how this is captured by differentiating the product, by creating different lines of product like Native. And because that means that different businesses can prosper, different jobs can be created, and a bigger offering for consumers can be put into display. Many non-price characteristics as well. I'm sure that Native doesn't survive or rely on price to make itself sold around the markets. I like to give this example. My daughter loves to buy the eggs that are certified as being friendly to chicken. Free range chicken eggs. I don't know if this is big in Brazil, but it's definitely in Europe. People are willing to pay premiums for that type of eggs, which are often cross with the organic standards. So why not create this type of market differentiation, use consumers as a powerful good to improve how things are produced, how things are processed and offered to end users. So in concluding my thought, and I think the company presentation from Fernando with a business, microeconomic, I would say, business analysis of Ian, and me trying to go into the cross-border area where we work at UNCTAD. We work in Laos and Tanzania, trying to promote these issues in Laos. We're working with private standards now, because private standards, like organic standards, are not negotiated by governments. They are a company or association created, and then they become a big brand in the consumer's minds, and a big in terms of requirement for market access. So we're working with Laos to try to make private standards a force for market expansion and not a trade barrier. And in Tanzania, we are now working with promoting networks there for the growth of organic sector. We have successful cases in the crops of coffee, rice, and milk, and processed vegetables like ketchup, which are growing very fast. There is a big demand in Tanzania for better, for example, Tetra Pak, this type of packaged milk doesn't exist yet. They still use the milk that we had here in the region a couple of decades ago in the bag. Remember the HC C-class milk in bags? They are using that now, but the problem is that it has a very short shelf life. So if they're now adapting Tetra Pak, the demand is exponential, it's huge. And this will, of course, create a lot of opportunities for the Tanzanians. And again, hope to see Native in international forum again, like BioFar, or perhaps even now that we are starting a different, not so different, but a project for economic diversification in Angola. Maybe we might, if you open your door, you might bring some Angolans to learn from your experience and cross-fertilize these interesting business ideas that you have helped you represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Henrique. And someone has a question for the audience? No? Yeah? And then I will pass for Bella, and then Fernando. Fernando again.
At the organic certification, we were aiming at a more sustainable way of production. So the things we started doing there were supposed to reduce costs or to improve productivity, yield, you know. So we were slowly heading to the organic certification without knowing about it. You know, we were not aware of the organic business and opportunities. And then what happened is, okay, let's start developing the green cane harvesting. If we reach a condition where a harvester can harvest 40 metric tons per hour, then we will have the same cost of manual harvesting. So we got a prototype, started working on it, started looking at how the field should go, because a field prepared for manual harvest is totally different than a field prepared for mechanical harvesting. So we, the most part of the investment we had to do when changing this system was not buying equipment. It was actually changing the whole configuration of the farms, you know. And then at a certain point, we were sure that we would have economic benefit in costs from changing from burnt cane manual harvesting to green cane mechanical harvesting. So it was sustainable in the economic aspect since the beginning. Let's say let's talk about reinforcement of areas aside water courses and so on. We knew it was needed because we needed to protect our own water resource, our own soils from erosion. So we had this conscience in the beginning, and we have a law. We have the Forestry Code in Brazil, which is very important, and therefore we wanted to make it in a good pace in advance of any charge and so on. So that nowadays all the permanent preservation areas are restored. Was not only abandoned because one can abandon that area to grass, exotic plants, and so on. No, it is reinforced with native trees, and it's providing solution to us. So it was a cost, yes, but it is an externality that people will have to carry anyway. There's no other way to go. And so forth. So when we decided to better use our own wastes, our effluents in the fields, the economic aspects were there as well. So we went through a better logistic way to spread vinasses, and this made it feasible to replace chemical fertilizers. Okay, so the first steps we took always went through the economic aspect of the business. What happened then is that, well, we are seeing more results than we expected to have. We are approaching to a more natural way of production. The straw over the soil, for instance, in the first moment, reduced a lot the weeds. So we can get rid of herbicides, let's do it. We were looking at the economical aspect of the, but then, when we were not organic, if a given weed appeared, we would have a herbicide there. We're not aiming at organic certification. We started aiming at organic certification when we were advised by an international company that there would be a need for organic sugar in the market, in the international market. It's an American company who are our partners since then. And they are the master distributors for us in North America and Europe. Anyone? No?
No. Morning, thank you, Mr. Fernando, for the presentation. I'd like to know if what's your point of view considering the other players of the market here in Brazil, mostly in Europe, because for the way I see, you have not now, but at the beginning, you had to know what is going to be the perspective of the market if they are going to accept this product, the consideration of the other players of the market, the opponents that can produce cheaper sugar faster and so on, and how do you deal showing the consumer the perspective of this kind of new product that you're going to introduce, if this is going to be a marketing situation, economic situation, or just going to leave to design?
Okay, very interesting question. Okay, nowadays the size of the sugar market in the world is 170 billion tons of sugar, and the organic market is 200,000 tons total. We could say it can be 300,000 tons, and we participate in this tiny small market of organic sugar with 80,000 tons, out of which 16 is internal consumption, is in Brazil, 16,000 tons. Brazil became the second market for organic sugar. The first one is the United States, and then if you consider the whole Europe as a one country, then Brazil is the third one. So, but as an individual country, Brazil is the second one. Okay, we have a few competitors in the organic market, and they can be harmful to the market itself, because it's as I told you, it's a tiny market. So everybody knows everyone in the market, and people very often go there and offer their product for cheaper price and so on. So we have to manage this in a very strategic way together with our partners there. But our hope is that we will end up replacing the whole market. I mean, the potential market for organic sugar is equal to the size of conventional sugar. And what we have to do is to be competitive, and people should know better the benefits of organic stewardship, not only for their own health. I don't believe that sugar can be perceived as a health product in any way. There's no hope in it. However, sugar is an ingredient in many foods, and many of them are very healthy. Let's say about yogurts, ice creams, and all kinds of sweet food in the market. So since sugar is a very it is a heavy ingredient in many products, it is needed to be organic if you want to have a certified organic product in the end. So we have a captive market every time the organic market grows in any way. When we scale up the production, we have competitive price. I could show it. I have more yield. I have only one thing that's wheating that is more expensive than the conventional world in organic sugar production. However, we at Native are very careful not showing for now what we have been doing to other companies, because we need to protect our market. If a big sugar mill decided to go organic, we are not in the market anymore. So we have to protect this technology as much as we can.
And did you mention this is a time market? Why? Talk more about the barriers and talk more about the social aspects, because you talk a lot about economic and environmental aspect, please. Okay. Of course, barriers for more acceptance of organic food in the world is price-wise. People, not all people can afford to pay more, and not people desire to pay more. It's a matter of perception. I always like to challenge people to think about it. Imagine that I offer you 2 apples, both very, very beautiful and desirable. I offer to you, this is organic, this is conventional. I will sell any one of them for the same price, for $1, let's say. Well, if you are willing to buy an apple, what one would you buy? The organic one. No one would actually buy the conventional one. So if the price was the same, everybody would have organics instead of conventional. It's clear to me. So first thing, organic stuff, organic goods will never cost the same as conventional foods, because they have more value. They have a value added to it, and it's easily perceivable for many people. That's why it is successful. That's why it's been growing more than 10% every year for so many years, so many decades. And so it is price. And when we talk about price, we are talking about scale, and we are talking about the middlemen. Middlemen are very important in making the price of organic goods so much higher than conventional goods. When we reached the supermarket chains here in Brazil, they practiced 5% markup in conventional sugar. They sometimes practiced negative margins in order for the sugar to attract people to the supermarket. And
and then selling other goods to them. And they pressed it 100% in organic sugar. So it was impossible to compete. The product was more expensive when we sold them. And then they pressed this whole different margin. And they do the same for all products, all organic products from every producer. So this is very important. And we have been trying to avoid this by establishing an e-commerce operation here in Brazil. So all the products of Native are available for selling directly to the consumers. We deliver at their homes for a competitive price. In regard to the social aspects of yes, we do have. We have more than 100 products, different products in the shelves, and we only produce sugar, organic sugar, and alcohol. All the other raw materials we are sourcing from partner growers, and we treat them very well. We make sure they are receiving a fair amount for what they produce. We control their quality. We develop all the recipes in our own lab, and I have like 12 food engineers for this operation. Then we hire the processors with our own recipe, which is exclusive for Native, help them get certified, and then we are controlling the whole custody chain in the majority of the goods we are selling, with the exception of olive oil, which is imported from Chile. Even for this product, we are very often going to Chile to see how the operation is and get some wine as well. And on social aspects, I don't mention them in my presentation because I expect people to believe that everything is good, and we are not doing anything more than what we need to achieve a dignified condition for our employees and for all the stakeholders we are dealing with. And we have been achieving all the social and environmental certifications we asked for in the past. So we are now certified Fair Trade by EcoCert and by IBD. And in the recent past, we were certified Rainforest Alliance. And we withdraw this certification because it was not adding what we expected it to add in price terms or in products. Because when we started the Rainforest Alliance certification was by the time where people were looking at exporting ethanol to Europe, and they were setting up some sustainable indicators and so on, who became the Bom Sucro certification. But we didn't know what way we should go by then, and we decided to try the Rainforest Alliance certification, which is much more strict than Bom Sucro. But it was aimed at conventional production from the other companies that we had there. And it didn't work well, so we decided to withdraw it. But it was totally, we were totally according to the regulations and so on. So I don't mention this because I believe that the environmental aspects of the operation are the brightest
But we have to mention two
indicators. Yeah.
Any more questions? Please, can you say something to?
Okay, please do so. Yes, I mean, I think there's this paradox for sustainable business, isn't there? That you that you can, the sharing of the sharing of the secrets, the sharing of the kind of practices, has the bigger contribution, but actually then sort of like damages the company. And it's always how much do you share? How much do you share? I think the other I think important message from an accounting point of view is that sustainable doesn't mean more expensive. I mean, it does mean a transformation. There's no doubt about it. So you have to move from one system to another. That does require investment, change, disruption, which is always going to resisted and always perceived as being expensive, often more expensive. But once you transform into a more sustainable system, as we've kind of found out, the costs are often lower in many kind of like parts of it. And because you reconceptualize sources of values and what are assets, a lot of things that companies would consider to be costs, like fertilizer, are actually an investment in the kind of the key asset. And I think that there's valuable kind of like insights in terms of what we cost, what we value, how we kind of look at things, and also kind of challenge a notion that sustainable or ecological is always going to be more expensive. And I think that there's this perception in people's head, as we found, driven more by supermarkets pricing policy rather than the kind of the farm gate prices. And we need to be a little bit more, I think, have a greater understanding of these kind of like dynamics. And this kind of like this instinctive, if we're going to go organic, it's going to be more expensive. The transition will cost money, but then it's likely that will add extra value and extra costs. So we need to consider and adapt our understanding of value, costs, assets, investment, and waste in particular, because I think a major kind of part of this is actually, waste. Waste is something that we don't get any kind of, we don't sell. Actually, no, there's many different sources of value. And it's actually organizations developing a much kind of like more nuanced, a much more informed, a much more intelligent sources of value, and a much more critical view of waste, where I think a lot of the kind of transformations can occur. And in particular, this idea of accounting for nature properly is again something that our businesses should do, and government should encourage, and they should subsidize, and they should support, and not always kind of punish.
Henrique, your final message.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, Professor Ian and Fernando. I think Ian mentioned very well the points that sustainable doesn't have to mean necessarily more expensive. As the 200,000 tons market scale up to a few million tons, and maybe 100 million tons, eventually it's obvious that the price per unit will go down. So a better product might be the product of the future and might be affordable for all in a competitive environment. One thing I just like to mention, linking not only this roundtable but the whole winter working week which took place, is that I suspect that the success of Native and other companies which were presented here in institutions and knowledge networks are a result of a very nice example which is concentrated in this region of Ribeirão Preto, where you have at the same time the knowledge pools in accounting, economics, management. You have a push to do entrepreneurship, so to link. I was very impressed to visit the business incubator, to link, for example, IT entrepreneurs to apply their knowledge into sectors like agriculture, medical sciences, transportation. That creates hybrid jobs or hybrid businesses that are becoming the fast-growing poles. So we put together people who are trained in business, people who are trained in agronomic sciences, vocational schools for field workers in the sugar mills, which exist for a while, and also in the industrial technology pool that exists in the macro region of Ribeirão Preto all together, and this mix causes or makes it feasible the emergence of successful businesses like or co-businesses like Native out of the São Francisco group, and which is a really successful story. It would be really nice to see how those very functional clusters, one of them existing here in Engenheiro, in Ribeirão Preto, could be serve as seeds or knowledge transmitters to other regions of Brazil, Latin America, and other regions of the world. Of course, there's a geographical bias, but I would say that this region here managed to turn agriculture, which is often a place where the young people, the youth generation, don't like to work. Here, people like to work with that because this became high tech, this became fancy and high productivity, and that's the place to be. And if this spirit grows in other places of the world, having strong, advanced agriculture, that's the basis of society, that's the basis to prevent wars, prevent conflicts, and why not use this region to broadcast its knowledge. Thank you.
And Solange, do you have any final message? No? Do you have any final message? No? We would like to thank you for all. Thank you for your presentation. Congratulations for your company and for your work there. And obrigado a todos. Obrigado novamente, Solange. E vamos tentar aí mais uma vez, né? Spread to the world this initiative. Okay, thank you all.